getting better since you've been mine.
And now, 1160 AM KBDT proudly presents Life Solutions, coaching, counseling, naturopathic medicine, insights for successful living, and getting better with Ann Beal.
Welcome. Thanks for joining us today. I have Dr. Jim Slaughter here today to help me. I'm Ann Beal.
Hi, everybody. Good to be with you today.
And we are going to help you get better. One of the things that we do on this show, the main thing that we do is to help you get better in every area of your life. And Father's Day is coming up. Not this Sunday, not tomorrow, but next Sunday.
We just wanted to help you get ready for it. So we're going to talk about some ideas for doing that.
Yeah, the best way to prepare for a great Father's Day, whether you have a good relationship, a stress relationship, an awkward relationship, a distant relationship, or estranged, we're here to help you so that you can get closer to your dad.
And we realized going in that there are some whose dads aren't living. And so we had some thoughts on that as well. A lot of it will be for those who do have our dads available around. They're still living. But there will be some things for folks who have lost their dads, too.
Yes. So which one do you want to start with?
Well, let's start with some ideas about dads who are still living.
Yes. Okay. So the thing is, if your dad is living, okay, which most people's are, we just want to let you know a better way to reach out this Father's Day, some things that you can do. If it's not that good of a relationship, we just want to let you think about this. It's better to figure out why it's not a good relationship, what's happened to you. Figuring that out is important, okay? What you do next is start trying to build a better relationship in spite of that. Now, if you have a good relationship with your dad, but it's just kind of awkward on Father's Day, a lot of dads, kids don't know what to do for their dads on Father's Day. A lot of dads, it's difficult to even know what to buy or know what to do. And so one of the things we'd like you to do when you're with him is let go of the need to be right.
Oh.
Yeah, because it's a different generation. And so the older generation, when you're growing up as a kid, they usually are right and you're not, right? And so, but you get to the point where you have, especially with different generations, you have a difference of opinion. And if your dad had the need to be right, you probably also have the need to be right. And so you could be on the opposite side of that. And so just not doing that this Father's Day.
Yeah, good point. Good point. Yeah, sometimes we feel the need to just get the upper hand, have the last word, things like that. This year we might just want to pull away from that, back off from that, and have a good conversation and not have to be right.
Well, especially what's going on right now, right?
Yeah, some conversations lead to a dead end, and so that usually ends badly. And so avoiding conversations like that can be a help. Yeah,
because, however you feel about the coronavirus or COVID-19, wearing a mask, not wearing a mask, all that kind of stuff. You know your dad's opinions on that probably. But if they come up and they're the opposite of yours, it's Father's Day, just let it go.
Yeah, why would you want to fight about that on a day where you're honoring your dad,
and it's getting more and more divisive. So families are getting more and more divided than ever before. And so people aren't talking to friends. People aren't talking to their high school friends. People aren't talking to parts of their family. And in order, it used to be that no one talked about politics or religion, right? And that was because it divided families if you disagreed. And so just think about that. You can agree to disagree. It's okay to not agree.
Right. If people are able to do that, that sometimes is a good way to do
and that's called tolerance, being able to tolerate people when they differ from you. And we see it a lot in marriages when people get married. They think they're so much alike, but in time they start seeing their differences. And it can make them angry because they thought they were alike. And so they get angry at the other person. They don't agree with them.
Right. And another thing that we see is that people try to change each other and win them over to their point, and they feel like they haven't succeeded unless they can do that. But that's one of the quickest things that will divide a couple, is trying to win an argument.
Yeah, and so it's not the point. You have to remember why you're going into this. You want to show Dad you love him. You want to try to have a good Father's Day. So you got to keep that kind of in front of you the whole time, that's your goal, not to prove you're right. Because I can be watching both of those men or And they're both wrong, right? In that what they're
Right.
doing is wrong. And they both could be right, but they're fighting over. You get two perfectionists that can be crazy. So odds are, if you were raised by your father, you might be a lot like your father. But, to improve the relationship, you have to realize there's a lot of baggage back there, right? So if he didn't agree with your ambitions, or you felt like he didn't approve of you, or whatever it is, right? On Father's Day, trying to not get into a fight in light of the fact that you already have this baggage behind you kind of driving it. And so you have to think ahead of time going into it that you're not going to do that. So what do you do instead? Well, okay, we're going to help you know how to build a relationship with your dad different. So, Dr. Slaughter, when we talk about kind of just getting to know dad, instead of having these conversations like people, they sit and kind of let conversation happen. Well, the older generations will say like, oh, why aren't you getting married? Or why aren't you finishing college? Or whatever comes up that can set you off. So what you want to do instead is develop a different kind of relationship. So what's one of the first things they can do as far as...
Well, I think when it comes to developing a new relationship, or maybe not new, but a different kind of relationship, I honestly think that what I shot for with my dad was just being able to have a conversation with him and enjoy that of him. And to do that, we recommend asking good questions of our dads. And a great question to ask is taking our dads back in their heads to the past with memories and things like that. And so one person suggested, hey, how about asking, hey, Dad, what's the first memory of me that you have as my dad? And for a lot of people, it's going to be in the hospital when they first saw you after you were born, or maybe they watched you being born. Or on the other hand, maybe your dad was overseas in the military or something, came home and met you when you were, just several months old or a year old or something. And so, but the point is to take him back, let him reflect on some really good memories, what it was like as a dad.
Yeah, and when you're trying to work on forgiveness for things in the past, and one of the things that helps you forgive is understanding, being able to understand a person better. And if you can't get their personality profile done like we do at the office, you can ask questions and get in their head. And one of the best ways to do that is ask about their past.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they have these memory books, or what, I don't know what they're called. Like my grandmother, when she was in her 90s, I started filling out, it was about her, and it was my grandmother. And so I asked her all these questions. In the book, it had all these questions. Like, what toys did you play with as a child? What music did you listen to as a child or as a teenager?
Yeah,
what was your favorite music? What did you do for fun in high school with your friends? And so it had all these questions. What were your favorite clothes? When you think of your favorite clothes, what did they look like? Right? What kind were they? Right? And it's funny to hear, because we were talking about the dads for the longest time, they wore suits all the time. Or at least slacks and suit shirts and blouses.
Businessmen,
Not blouses. I said blouses. I cracked myself up. Even though they're the same thing, men name theirs differently. What are they called?
They're called shirts.
Shirts. Right. Just shirts.
Well, and let me go back to what you were saying, and that is allowing a dad to talk about his growing up years. That's one of my favorite questions, is to say, hey, tell me about your growing up years. What do you remember about that? And then you can go ahead and, as he begins to talk, then you can enter into a more specific conversation about any one thing. But there would be the kinds of things that you mentioned, that your grandmother, the book that she had,
Yes.
you wrote those things down. It would be just getting to know him better in his growing up time, just kind of a history, of your dad. And
Well, your dad, I asked him if they had cars. They have cars back then? I was kidding around. He goes, well, actually, they did just start getting cars. And then he went on to airplanes when airplanes were starting. And I mean, I never thought about that. These people, they saw all of this incredible stuff invented.
Right.
And so just by asking that one question and kidding around about his age, well, actually, I think there were some cars. We didn't have one yet, and then we got one. We didn't have electricity, and then we got electricity, and it's so cool to hear.
Didn't have a bathroom, then we got a bathroom.
I didn't hear that part. Yeah.
Well, and someone had asked the question, tell me about the war.
The war.
Most of our fathers today have, if they weren't in combat or they weren't actively on military duty, they were around during a wartime
but they
situation.
don't talk about it.
No, and so sometimes it's good to ask about that. Tell me about the war. What was it like?
I can tell you that one of our friends who records veteran stories, like he spends most of his time doing World War II vets because they're dying. They're so old. He tries to get as many as he can, and they're in their 90s and 100s.
Yeah.
So he records it and writes a newspaper article and a recording, and he puts it in the National Archives.
In Washington,
D.C.
Yeah.
So he says that every time he interviews someone and they go through it, he will allow a family member in there if they let him, but often they don't. So he does it by himself. But when they hear it, they hear the recording or they see it, they cry and they say they've never heard those things before.
Right.
And I think it's because no one asked.
That's partly it. Partly is that often wartime experiences involve a lot of pain.
So people avoid it. Right?
Yeah, so people just don't talk about it, right? And so that's a good question to ask. I like the question, if you could do anything differently, as a dad, if you could go back and change something, what would you change? And sometimes that can be an interesting discussion.
Well, and if you have a funny dad, which I have a funny, he'll say something funny. And he might say, well, I might have skipped having you or something like that, And so, they can be funny, but asking them good questions. And what other questions can they ask?
Well, one person said, ask your dad, what if you're not married yet and you want to be, what should I look for in a partner?
Yes, because I heard a dad the other day getting on this girl about her boyfriend. And that he wasn't right for her and on and on and on. And I was thinking, maybe instead he should be telling her what to look for instead of what not to look for.
See, because when he tells her who she shouldn't be with, that almost inspires her to go be with that person, in a sense, because we often will react in such a way that there's some hostility there. And so I think you're right about that. Share what you think would be the good things, good qualities to look for in a partner.
And you don't have to agree. That's the thing. You're just getting information. And so, if your dad says you don't have a real job, you can say, what kind of job would you like me to have?
Or what kind of job would be a real job?
Would be a real, well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, because it's all about what he thinks is real and not real. So you just ask him, what kind of job would you like me to have? Or what would you consider a real job? And you don't have to agree. You don't have to agree. What you're doing is getting in their head, okay? If he says, I want you, I think doctors, and you'll be like, oh, only doctors or only pilots.
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating. But just listening is so important.
Right, and the thing is, we're not here to, when you do this, the thing we're talking about, just talking with your dad and exploring things, getting to know him better, asking him good questions and all. We're not talking about having a debate. We're not talking about trying to win an argument. We're talking about just having a conversation. And that is so much more productive than trying to win something.
Well, I have people, and it kind of depends on what it is. So, but you usually have kind of a different worldview and generation-wise than your parents. And maybe your parents were strict and real strict or real religious strict or whatever. But that tells me you're also on the other side of that. If you're arguing with them, you're being strict you're strict too in your beliefs. And you're not being flexible either. And so I watch these two people, and even though they have different opinions about it, they're both behaving in the same way. And so it's very interesting.
Right. Another question that might be interesting to ask, and might be hard to get a response at first, but what do you think the rest of your life will look like? What would you foresee in your future? What do you think your later years will look like?
Well, I do think asking questions about his life, but the key is to really listen, because you'll hear and learn things you've never heard before, and if you have a friend who their dad has passed away, asking them questions about their dad, good memories, tell me about your dad,
right.
Listening, and I encourage you to listen because you get to know people better. You help them. You make them feel better when you listen. They feel important. They do.
Oh, yeah.
It's when people don't listen or they're distracted by the phone or the computer or whatever that they feel unimportant. So by talking to him, letting him talk to you about him, he feels very important.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, asking him questions about his life. I like that. You'll probably learn something.
What?
You'll probably learn something. Just being with my dad the other day, I learned so much stuff.
Right, and I think there's some things that he probably hadn't thought about in so long, and all of a sudden he can because you asked him the question. Tell me about these years, or tell me about growing up, or what was it like back when, or something.
Now, what would happen if you try to do that and your dad's not very talkative, or he's watching TV or whatever dad can get distracted with, right?
Well, one person, and we didn't throw this out, but one of the questions that a person asked was, "Hey, Dad, you want to go for a walk?"
Yes, that's a good one.
And so we can mention that when we get back on the air. But I think that's good. If a dad is distracted, hey, Dad, how about going out in the backyard for a few minutes?
I was so into you. I totally. Hey guys, I didn't see everybody. Hey guys.
Yeah.
So guess who? LOL.
Yeah.
Good morning. Hi everyone. Her servant. What is her chocolate? Oh, are you going to send me chocolate? Is that what you're asking? Are you sending me chocolate? What's my chocolate, Jim?
You mean what kind of chocolate?
Uh-huh.
Ooh, you like Hershey's eggs?
My mom's here. Yeah, I do like eggs. Can she cook? Cracking me up. Hi, Sherry. Oh my goodness.
Well, we're getting a lot of feedback
guys.
down
Hey,
there,
Linda.
aren't we?
Hey, Shirley. Everybody, just thank
Wow,
you.
it's really good to hear from
my gosh.
everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for checking us out today. We appreciate you.
You learned something about my dad when we were there. I learned something about my dad when we were there. The cool thing about when your dads get older is that they are more sensitive, more patient, more compassionate. Usually
that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so, you do get that time with them to get to know them in a different way. And and people whose fathers passed away, I think that they, in their younger years, not only dads, let me clarify, because I'll get all these comments that I'm man bashing, right? If I say dads can be selfish and self-centered, self-focused. I'm just saying, okay, I don't mean all men. I don't mean all dads. I mean people.
As a dad myself, let me just say this is true. We can be this way. It doesn't mean we're always this way.
Yeah, and so, and they do usually mellow out time-wise, age-wise, because they get less energy and less distracted because they're usually retired. That's why they do better with grandkids. And a lot of kids get jealous that, you go to visit without your child and they're like, what, it's just you? And you're like, it's just me. Sorry. It's me.
I think there's such a need that new parents feel, young parents feel, to have their kids turn out just right, Yeah. And usually just right means what you think is just right. And so we're really working hard on these kids. And sometimes we make them kind of crazy trying to fit them into a mold,
And if you're a perfectionist, you're trying to be a perfect dad.
Oh, yeah.
And to have a perfect child, right?
Oh, yeah.
And you don't know. And so the first child is often the guinea pig of how to make a perfect child, right? You got the flashcards going. And you have them trying to walk before they're one, and all this kind of stuff.
To admit it's getting better, a little better all the time.
And now here's more Getting Better with Ann Beal on 1160 AM KBDT.
We are trying to help you have a better relationship with your dad, especially this Father's Day, how to get closer to him. Now, if you've had some angst with your dad, this would be a good time to start working on how forgiveness looks, right? So what's forgiveness look like? You start trying to find the commonality between you and dad. And so we were talking about asking really good questions. Ask dad about his life, his background, what he was as a kid, what was his favorite music. And there's lots of things we're going to talk about with that. Basically, trying to get to know him better. And with understanding and learning more about him, you can start looking at you can see him as a whole person, his good traits and his bad traits, okay? Like every other human being. He's not perfect. He has failings, right? And so what you're trying to do is enjoy him, and get to know this this man that's similar to you, the human. Okay. Now we came up with a lot of different questions in the last segment. You had one you wanted to talk about that you didn't get to mention.
Well, yeah, we were talking about what happens if you're trying to talk to your dad and have a conversation like we've been sharing about and talking about, but dad's distracted. He's got one eye on the TV and another eye on you or what's going on, and he doesn't seem to be listening or paying much attention. You could always say, "Hey, Dad, how about going for a walk?" Or how about let's go out in the backyard and sit down for a little bit out there and just talk for a minute, or whatever. But often you can invite him to change locations. A walk is great. Exercise is wonderful for everybody, and so that would be a good thing to do, and might draw him away from, TV or whatever it is that might be his phone or something even. But
computer.
Yeah, the computer. And so inviting him to a different location, to doing something different, especially something kind of active like taking a walk.
Well, when you take a walk, within 10 minutes, most people are a lot more chilled, right? It takes about 10 minutes. So even if you've been in an argument with somebody, if you go for a walk with them, or if you see if they're uptight or they're getting irritable, hey, Dad, do you want to go for a walk?
Right, and part of the reason for that is, and I've heard people discuss this, psychiatrists, psychologists, and all, have said that it is so much easier to talk when you're side by side than when you are like more face to face. And so there's something that allows more freedom and less tension when you're just walking with somebody.
But it is also exercise, so it's getting all those chemicals going that are better.
Yep.
And if you're a little nervous or dads can be nervous. One time my dad told me that because I kind of got on him because he was having trouble staying in the same room with all six of us. And I just asked him, like,
who wouldn't have trouble with that?
What are you doing? And he said, okay, I'm just a little nervous.
Yeah.
There's just so many. I'm starting to, wasn't nervous, it was anxious. All the noise, right? White noise, all the talking. And he started feeling anxious. And I had never, for the life of me, thought of Dad being anxious, right? Or having anxiety.
Right.
It was such an insight that, he's human, right? Yeah. And so that's a really good thing to go for a walk. And exercising with somebody, even if you start getting stressed out going for a walk, even if someone doesn't go with you, so that you can calm down and then go back.
Sure.
Taking some breaks. Reminiscing about the good times you shared.
Yes. And in fact, that's one of the very best things that we can do. In fact, we can do that before we even see our dad. If we travel or whatever it is, even if it's a short distance, and just to think about the really good memories that we have, the really good times together that we've had, things that you enjoyed back as a kid with your dad, and then you can talk with him about it and say, Dad, do you remember when we did this or we did that or this happened? And get him talking about old times with you that are really good, happy memories and really good times, and that's a great way to do it.
Yes, and everybody has something. If you don't have a lot of good times, you have some. And you were talking about, you felt like, my dad traveled a lot, so he wasn't around a lot, really. But I did have, you said, because your dad was home, and I mean, he worked, but he was home, and you had different experiences.
More than
with
your dad,
yeah. And yet you were envious of me because I went horseback riding with my dad, and I went fishing a lot with my dad, and things like that, right?
We had really different experiences with our dads, and there were some things that I thought, well, I missed out on those things, and yet there were some other things that I did with my dad where I benefited immensely and was so enriched by what he did with me and the things that he supported me in and affirmed me for,
Yeah, and Boy Scouts and all that kind of stuff. So it was much more on a regular basis that Dad was around. And I think that, for me, I thought I was envious of that with you, that your dad was always around. Not always. But, it's interesting how we had different perspectives about our dad. Because I was like, well, my dad was always gone, and then you would talk about your dad, but then you would be envious of me about the things my dad did, and vice versa. And so, we get such a small world, and we see things, that we think our dad's not being good to us or whatever. I'm not saying that they don't have flaws, okay? But you can get a different perspective by talking to other people about your dad.
Boy, isn't that's the truth, isn't it? Wow, you sure can.
Yeah, so that was really cool. Somebody is saying unfollow him on social media so that you
We've heard that one before, too.
I know, because you can get stressed out by some of the things he says, or he can get stressed out by the things you say. So, that way you don't have to worry about that. Some people have a family Facebook and a personal one, so that's a good suggestion. If you have any other ones, let us know.
Right.
Getting Better with Ann Beal Facebook. Dad's focus was on providing, most moms didn't work, the world has changed. That's right.
Yeah. That's
Yeah,
true.
that was your experience.
Well, and we talked about, that 50s looking family where, mom stays at home, takes care of the kids and cleans house, and dad gets out and does his thing in the workaday world, right? And how difficult it could be sometimes to balance different parts of the relationship.
Right.
And how difficult it can be. Dad thinks he works hard. Okay, great, he does. But mom works hard too. How hard is it? It's really hard to try and take care of kids and make sure the house is clean and do all the things that need to be done for the household.
Right.
And I think there have been times in the past when dads have forgotten that. But anyway, yeah.
And so I do think in that way, things can be very different. Dads can be distracted with different kinds of things. I have an email right now from my dad. Look at that.
Really?
He emails me. We talk every day on email. He's so funny. Uh-oh. And this is the thing I really love. I love talking to my dad by email every day because he has trouble hearing, though he can hear me when I talk, but it's harder.
Yeah.
So we talk on email.
Yeah, you guys email every day, and it is just the most really warming thing to see you enjoying one another through emails and stuff. And
yeah, my dad got a buzz cut, and I told him that he got a buzz cut because they were going to the Mercedes club party or what would like show Mercedes show or something. And I said she had to buzz your hair because all those women flirt with you, and they just are drawn to you. So she had to do something.
Had to change something.
And he said it's a conspiracy. He said right now she's making him stay in the car.
That sounds so
anyway,
like him.
So my dad lives far away. But,
he is so funny. Yes.
Yeah, he's funny. Well, and that's the thing, reminiscing about good times. I don't know. I don't do that too much with my dad about the past. Do I? About the past?
No, not too much.
Except the playing the guitar and the music and Mountain View and the folk music and all that.
You guys do talk about that
we do
sometimes.
Talk about that.
So, yeah.
Food. We talk about food. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to relive memories is really a wonderful thing to
It
do.
really is. And
Whether your father's alive or not alive,
Yeah.
to go back through memories and have those, often watching videos, if it's-
sometimes you can pull out photos,
Yes.
if you have some
Yeah.
photos from the past and take a look at those things together and relive old times, and that can be really a good thing.
But some people, they don't want to remember the good because it's so painful. They try to hold on
Sometimes,
to the bad,
yeah.
especially when it's fresh, like deep pain. Other people, when they've just lost their dad, they don't want to think anything bad.
Right.
And so it kind of depends on the person, and you have to go with, all family members grieve differently even. So
They
even
do.
in one family, whoa, what was that? She's like, I
There's a
don't know.
mouse in the works.
So anyway, that's some of the things that they can do when they've lost somebody. It's
Sure, and if you have a friend, if we have friends who've lost their dads recently, there are even things that we can do to help them, through that time.
yes, yeah.
So
Well, and helping them around the house even,
sure, and helping them even talk and relive their good memories with their dad, can really be a helpful thing.
What is the Del Walmsley Radio Show?
Welcome to the Del Walmsley Radio Show, where the hype ends and the help begins. I'm your host, Del Walmsley, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom.
Listen to the Del Walmsley Radio Show Monday through Friday from 11 until noon.
It takes a whole lot more effort to get something started in your life than it does to keep it moving.
Del Walmsley has moved thousands closer to a great life. The Del Walmsley Radio Show is now on 1160 AM KBDT, Monday through Friday from 11 until noon. Listen and move toward your great life today.
To admit it's getting better, a little better all the time.
If you'd like to get better, call Ann right now. 214-810-8255. 214-810-TALK. Now more with Ann Beal on 1160 AM KBDT.
Welcome back. We are trying to help you have a better relationship this Father's Day with your dad, just a better day, how to get closer, and then following that too. this may mean finding ways to communicate with him in order to get him to open up, okay? Because some dads don't open up just freely, and we were talking about that a little bit on break. What if they don't, you ask them questions and they don't really open up? They don't.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry to interrupt. I was going to say that I have found that the thing that works best for me to help people open up to a conversation is asking them about their childhood years, their growing up years. We've already mentioned that. But people are almost always willing to talk about that.
Or even things they love to do.
Yeah.
Okay,
that too.
Fishing. People who love fishing, you can ask them about fishing.
Oh, they could talk all day about that.
Fishing. If they love sports, you can always go fishing with them. Because one of the things I was going to say is you could, one of the things that they would love is if you ask them to do something they love, right? And go fishing, go golfing. Oh, my dad's a big golfer, right? And so anything like that, doing something with them or doing something for them.
Sure. Yeah, and we were thinking about this too. Doing something for your dad when you see him. One man mentioned mowing the lawn from time to time when he goes to visit his dad. Whatever might be helpful in getting it done. My brothers, I had 2 brothers, and you know them, of course, real well. And we painted my dad's house one summer, and it was a job, let me tell you. And but we enjoyed it. We had a good time doing it, and my dad was so grateful. That way he didn't have to pay a painter to come in. I know how to paint. I used to have a business like that. And so we did that for him, and it really, really, he was very grateful for that.
And that was a cool thing to do, because I think that with your dad, it was harder just to know how to hang out with him, right? Mm-hmm. And so finding ways to do that. And really, if they know you're interested in them, that you're interested in hanging out with them, that kind of light goes off and they start talking more. Mm-hmm. And you find that you can get them to talk about them. If you try to have those dead-end conversations with them, if it's just if they can just answer yes or no, it's better not to ask those questions. They're just so short-ended. They don't go anywhere. And definitely, if you've already had it before, don't do it again. And dads can be bad about asking these same questions over and over and over and over. Right? They can be obsessive that way. You have a blank face.
I was just wondering if you could be more specific about that.
Well, like, when are you going to get married? When are you going to go to college? When are you going to get a better job? When are you going to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, best thing to say is, well, I don't know. What do you think?
I'm working on it.
What
or
do
something.
you think? And just let him tell you what he thinks.
Yeah.
Because he wants to tell you what he thinks. He's just not doing it in the greatest way.
Right.
And, they often will say, Mom wants you to, or whatever, right? And say, well, Dad, what would you like?
Sure.
And so just being able to change the conversation from what it had been before.
There's some skill to that, but you can learn to do that, and it doesn't take as much as you might think.
Yes.
Also, again, let me just emphasize the importance of, like you said, open-ended questions. You don't want to ask a question that can be answered with yes or no.
No.
Okay?
Well, and you can start a hobby together. Now, how do you do that? You ask, right? Now, if you can think of a hobby you might like, building planes or drones. This is the new thing, drones. Hey, let's get a drone. The parasailing, that would be me. You would not do that.
I might. I've done it before.
He's gotten braver. Yeah, but, drones are kind of cool. Rockets, you and your grandson. Rockets, right?
Ours blew up.
Yeah, I know it blew up. But that was the fun part, right? I mean, it was like, cool. Anyway, but, if some kind of hobby together, right, is always good. Just doing something different than the Thanksgiving Day chats where you're just all sitting around and trying to talk, right?
Yeah,
and,
if you could do that, that would be really productive, I think,
Yes, and so with all the busy schedules, if you are a busy person, right, working and all that, my suggestion is give them a call. Now, what do they say when they give them a call? Hey, Dad.
Well, yeah, you can say, you mean if you leave a message or something?
Yeah, or talk to him.
Say, hey, Dad, this is Jim. I was just hoping I could get you, have a conversation. So would like to get together sometime. Let me hear back from you.
Yeah, and you can even say, I'm looking forward to hearing back from you.
Yeah.
Let's get together. I want to get together. Something like that. That's a really cool.
Yeah. Make your desire known. Let them know what you'd like. And, and while we're on that subject, let me just say my dad is no longer living. Passed away a number of years ago, and there are so many times when I wish I could just sit down with him and have a cup of coffee with him and just chat, and so I it's not so much like often you don't always miss your dad to the extent during the current time that you have with him, than you might later after you don't have an opportunity to spend time with him. And so there's something to think about there.
Yes, if you could, what would you do differently, right? And if you could think of it, because we've had 2 family members died, and it's been an interesting time to think about if we only had one more moment, one more day with them, right? I'm not going to cry. But just to be able to have that time, and if you can think about it now, you know, and people do ask me at times if I've had a near-death experience or something. I've been asked that quite a few times because they say I behave in a way like it's almost like my last day or something. I tend to live life very passionately. And so I do think about those things. And it may be because when I was young, my aunt died when I was going to be coming home. And with work, I was an engineer. And I was going to see her when I got home anyway, so I didn't call her. Before I got there, my mom was telling me she wanted to talk to me, and I didn't call her. And I thought, I'll see her when I get home. And then on my way to Little Rock, I got a call that she had passed away. It was the craziest thing. She had a collapsed lung, and it was just the most bizarre thing. And so after that, I learned, and I was, 20, 21, and I just, since then especially, have always tried to say the things I need to say to people when I need to say them, and to just be more open and honest and real every day.
We might call that a charged moment or a charged incident.
Definitely, it
leaves an impact. It's like electricity goes through you, and you never forget it.
Yeah, and so that's where if you've had, if you feel you've been wronged in the past by your dad, it's a really good thing to think about. A lot of people say he never bought me the pony he promised me, he never bought me the Mercedes he promised me. I've heard it's so much of that, and this would be a really good time, and it's very freeing to forgive and forget. You won't completely forget, but the longer time goes, you forget, and just to be, it'll do wonders for your health, and it'll do wonders for your relationship.
Yeah, it will. And let me just say, when you truly forgive somebody for something, then you just don't care anymore. Doesn't matter anymore. It's as if it didn't happen, in a sense, and you no longer hold them responsible. And that's what real forgiveness is.
Yeah, and I would say it's probably been a long time since you've had a real heart-to-heart with your dad.
Probably.
I mean, and not just dad. I mean, I have people say that. They tend to do it with women more than men. Men don't necessarily always open up about their lives. They can be kind of closed off that way, and they'll play sports with you or something like that, So, yeah, I would say, and they like to, some dads, they're more likely to be funny than serious,
But that's a defensive mechanism.
Yeah, but you can still, through funny, be real, right, and try to work your way through that.
Yeah, you can work your way through it.
But when you get into something that he loves, you see his passion. So that's really a good thing to do. And in a way, you're finding common ground with them. You're trying to find, they are human, and you will find that out the more you get to know them. We
were at a place the other day getting food, and there was a sign that says, please check your order when you get it, because it was made by humans.
And we did. We checked our order.
We did, and it was okay.
And one of the best things you can do for Father's Day, and really any holiday, is to focus on the positive. Positive. People like positive people.
Yes.
And when you're looking at the positive in your dad, I really want you to work to try to see that he has a very positive side. Everyone does. If he's human, he does. And so, make a list of the positive things. Talk to him about the positive things. And when you say, Dad, I really like when you do that. I really like when you laugh like that.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, to be positive this Father's Day. And we need a lot more positive in this world.
Let me say, too, in light of that if you can see your dad this Father's Day or the weekend or sometime close, do that. I used to ask my dad, he had a birthday coming up. I'd say, Dad, your birthday's coming up. What would you like for your birthday? And he got the place where he would always say, just come and see me. And I began to realize that the most important thing to him was just to see me, spend time with me, that I would want to see him. There's something that shows our respect and our desire when we are willing to spend time with somebody. So go see him if you can.
His love language was probably time. Did you know that?
Well, it probably was.
Yeah. And I say that. I've tried to stop saying that because I've said it so much. I've tried to say, think of something. They really want to know what I want them to buy me, but we've talked about that before, because I tend to be a time person. I say, hey, go hiking with me. They're so good. They'll go like, okay. Oh,
We can
or
say
go
a
to
lot
movie,
about that, but that's another story,
And
right?
so part of it is, if you can see what they might like to do by getting to know them. If you already know well enough, then focus in on that. Your dad may tell terrible jokes, right? And it might embarrass you, but he may be very kind and patient. Okay, so those are things to think about, focusing on the positives and not the negatives, okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And to say, Dad, one of the things I've always appreciated so much about you is that you are so whatever. And we were talking coming in, my dad was a very patient man, and that's one of the things that I admired. I ended up admiring about him most, and there are other things about him. I think the thing I learned most from him was a good work ethic, and if I could pass anything along to my kids, it might be that.
Yes, and me too, a good work ethic. That's a really good positive trait,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And I've had people say, I can't think of anything positive. And I'll be like, take a walk. And I'll have them take a walk around the building. You need to go take a walk. And they'll come back and they'll have thought of something. And so part of it is that when resentment, bitterness, and all that builds up, it can be harder to see a person that we saw before. And I've had people, they love their pastor. I think he's a great preacher. And then the pastor will do something that upsets them, or he'll hear him talking negative to a kid or whatever. And then they'll be coming in saying they don't like that. I just don't even, he doesn't even preach very well. And I'm thinking, you just told me last month he was the best preacher you ever heard, right? And so it does affect people. It does. And so taking a walk, spending some time thinking about it, if you're having trouble thinking of anything good, if he's human, there are good things. There are positive traits.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
How do you repair damaged relationships? If you think dad's toxic or he's done some really tough things.
Well, I can think of a couple of questions to ask or things to do. And, we've talked about this in different contexts before, but one of the things that we can do is to say, Dad, I feel some distance between us. I feel like I'd like to be closer to you. I'm not sure how. I'm afraid I may have offended you or hurt you in some way.
Yeah.
And if I have, I just want to apologize. So have I done that? Is there something that has come between us?
Now, what about on the other side? If it was Dad that did it?
Well, if you're at a place where you can say, Dad, I need to talk to you about something. I felt hurt, when you said this or you did this, or over time I just continue being hurt, and I want to get it out in the open, get it on the table, and just talk to you about it and let you know how I was feeling, because I don't want any distance between us. I want us to be close.
Now, what if it's a dad that can't handle all that squishiness?
Well, if that's the case, then maybe this isn't the right time to do that.
Well, and I think just, like you said, give him a call, ask him to tell him you'd like to, go coffee with him or get to do something with him.
Yeah.
Looking forward to calling you, hearing back from you. It's a good start. Just reaching out on Father's Day would be a good thing.
Well, that's the main thing.
Yeah, and trying
is
to figure
reaching
out.
out,
Yeah, and then trying to figure out how you can spend time with him, in a different kind of relationship, different kind of way than you did before.
Let me say, too, that when there's a hard topic that you feel like you need to address, a mentor of mine a long time ago said, if there's something hard you have to do, look for opportunity. Wait till an opportunity arises and then do it. Don't just do it anytime. Don't just jump off the cliff with it. And seek God's face. If you're a spiritual person, Christian person, seek God's face for the right opportunity to talk about this, and God will make a way for you.
And God will make a way for you even if you're not. You just ask him, Yeah, hey, I need help with my dad.
Yeah.
And I do think that's a great opportunity. It's Father's Day, right?
It is,
And
yeah.
so you can send him a funny card and say, I love you. Or you can call him, give him a call and say, I'm looking forward to spending time with you. Anything like that. Chances are it's been a really long time since you've really done that and had a heart-to-heart, or ask him really questions about himself. People got to just get caught up in a routine. And they tend to do the same things with their parents or their family over and over, or someone else kind of runs, the older sister, older brother kind of runs everything, right? And so I'd like you to think about having a good time with your dad, if you enjoy some of the things he enjoys or doing some of the things he enjoys, like tennis.
Yeah.
I say that because Jim likes tennis. And I was like, we got to go play tennis, right? And
Yep.
it's just something that you don't hear people do anymore. And we love tennis.
We played racquetball. We played tennis.
Yeah.
We've done hike. We do all kinds of
But
stuff.
with my
like
dad,
that.
I would usually say golf. Hey, Dad, you want to go golfing?
Yeah.
Always yes. I mean, it was never, no, I don't feel like it. And so that's something to think about. Hey, Dad, you want to work on the car? Whatever it is, think
Yeah.
about it. Get to know him. Ask him to do stuff he loves.
That's another. But often people feel closer to you and feel endeared to you when you ask them for advice.
Yeah.
You say, "I'd like to get your thoughts on something.
Yeah.
I need some advice. Could you help me here?" Or I'm not sure what to do about X, Y, Z. Something in the car maybe. And could you help me with it? Would you look at this for me? People feel very respected and appreciated. And so that's another thing.
Oh, I keep forgetting to look at this today. What's the deal? Okay. Oh. Now, it's
Good to
interesting
see
about
everybody
dads.
on today. What?
It's interesting about dads because often they'll have skills that they don't pass on to their kids. Like your dad, he could fix anything.
He just was he was a businessman, but he was very mechanically
Yeah.
minded, and he could
Yeah.
build things and do things I've never been able to do.
Yeah. And so with my dad, it was the financial side of it, stock market, all those kinds of things. So now I'm asking him those questions, and he's
Yeah.
teaching me, right?
Uh-huh.
And so, about 20 years, I started realizing I should ask him this stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so he tells me all the time, oh, do this. He didn't tell me. He, emails it. You should consider this. Stock market's up, gold's
Leave
down.
your money
blah, blah.
in.
Don't take it out. Don't take it out. And so, and cards, he loves bridge. And for the longest time, I thought, bridge is hard. I was like, I didn't try real hard to learn it, though, and so it just wasn't me. I didn't, I could play other cards with him, but bridge was really hard. And he could, Dad could be cutthroat at cards. And so
Oh, come on.
he could.
I
didn't
know.
mind it so
I
much,
know.
but people wouldn't play with him. And so there was a point when one day I said, oh my gosh, hardly anybody plays bridge anymore. As the old people, when I say old, 80s, 90s, 100s, when these people pass away, they're the last generation that really plays bridge. Do you know anyone else?
No one who's living now.
And yet, I meet people in their 80s. A lot of them play bridge. And I'm thinking, you know what, I better learn that. That's going to be a game that goes away.
There were adults in my family when I was growing up who had bridge parties all the time.
Well, and I want to pass that on, right? And so Dad taught me all kinds of card games. But that one, I don't know why I think he would mention it sometimes. But, I had other people, their dad did woodworking. And he had all these machines, but they never learned.
Yeah.
And so I had one guy just ask his dad, hey, Dad, will you teach me how to do that? Will you teach me how to do that? Not, Dad, will you make something for me? Will you fix something for me? But will you teach me?
Yeah, show me.
Yeah, show me how to do that. And so that's a really good thing to do.
It is. It is. One of the things that I've done to get closer to your dad is to begin building interest in some of the things that he's interested in. Your dad collects coins and has a magnificent coin collection, and he collects knives and guns and all kinds of things, like that. And so I'm always asking him when we go to show me this,
You've
show me
learned a
that.
lot from him.
What's your newest purchase and all
Yes.
that, and we buy some coins from him and stuff while we're there. But the main reason I started doing that wasn't that I had this great interest in coins. It's just that I wanted to get to know him better. I wanted to get closer to him.
And what has happened to you?
We've gotten a lot closer.
Yeah, you've gotten. And what is your interest in coins now?
Well, we've started a collection of our own. you know.
And you are always looking at those
Not
things.
quite like his, but
No.
we are. We look at them.
Yeah. And so you found that you enjoy it because there's certain things why people love things,
Mm-hmm.
Like if they're a beer maker, there's reason they love making beer. And so trying to get to know that, spend some time with them, see what they do when they make it, it's cool.
All the time.
You're getting better all the time. Now back to Ann Beal on 1160 AM KBDT.
Welcome back. We were chatting during the break. If you want to see what happens during the break, go to Getting Better with Ann Beal Facebook. We will put this video on YouTube after today if you would like to know more. One of the things we were just talking about was getting involved in Dad's hobbies, your dad's hobbies, for him, which we had done, but then we became kind of, I don't want to say obsessed, but enjoyed you may be obsessed, but enjoy
really.
them as well, which is kind of surprising. And we were talking to people who collect coins or people that collect things. If you ask them why, and you ask them to start teaching you, it's amazing how when you learn a lot of the intricacies about that hobby, how you can start liking it too, right?
Absolutely.
And if it's beer making, I mentioned that a lot of people go why, or wine making, or whatever making. If you ask if you can watch or help or for them to show you, they'll love that. They're like,
Right.
oh yeah, come do it with me. And so, because usually it's a hobby they love doing with other people. All these people that do it together,
Right. Yeah, often there are clubs, that
Yes.
they join, and so not that you would want to do that necessarily, but to show interest, ask questions. How did you get into this? What was so fascinating about it for you? And you got some really neat stuff here. Tell me about it. That kind of thing.
Well, and some people enjoy more talking about you than themselves. And so if you have trouble kind of getting to know him, you can let him talk about you. You can share about you, things that he might not know. Because some people are uncomfortable talking about themselves. And
Yep, they are.
sharing instead, so that's to help you have a great Father's Day. And, it's an interesting day when people are like, okay, it's Sunday. So there's church, right? Or if you go to church, spending time with your dad. I want you to think about it now, how you can make it a really good day for you and them, not just them, and suffer through or whatever it is you're thinking.
Right, and you've got a week to think about it
Yeah.
from this perspective anyway, and we've given you lots of ideas that should really help you out. And mainly what you're trying to do is connect with your dad, in a meaningful way.
So if your father has passed away, some of the things that you can do, if it's recent, you're still in a lot of pain. And so in that pain, having friends there with you, being with people on Father's Day is very important.
And not avoiding talking about your
Yeah.
dad if he's recently passed away. Being willing to do that and open up about that.
Well, and you'll probably be thinking about him for sure. It's usually a very hard day if you've just lost your dad.
Right.
And friends can help, but you might not want them talking about it. You do want to offer to bring it up if you're a friend. You say, you let them know. If you haven't said anything about their father dying, don't wait and do it on Father's Day. Do it now.
Yeah.
Offer your condolences now. But being with them to kind of help them through the day is really a good thing. Being with them, and what was your dad like, or what are you feeling? Any of those kinds of things. Be with them, comfort them, or maybe just they may just want to be distracted on Father's Day to go have a good time.
Yeah.
If the dad just passed away, right, not very long ago. If it's been a year, the year mark can be very painful that first year, and so those are often really good things to do. Some people do memorable things, my dad bowled, so we're going to go bowling as a family, or things like that.
Right.
But it's, having people there to help you through it is really important, and instead of being alone. Some people just like to be alone and be sad, right? And I'm sure you've done that enough already, and so be willing to let people be there for you.
Yeah, and if you do need to cry about your loss, tears are refreshing, and they also, let endorphins fly throughout your body when you cry.
It's very healing.
Very healing process. It makes
headache.
makes you feel better because of the chemicals that are released.
Yeah, and thinking about things, taking a walk, exercise really helps you with that, and there's nothing wrong with you trying to take care of your own health on Father's Day, right?
Not a thing.
That's a really good good thing. And some people can always go back through their memorabilia and things like that. But one of the best things you can do on Father's Day is think about the positive traits again.
Sure.
Right? And if you can find positive traits and identify with them. But you can also ask questions of the other family members about things you didn't know. What is something I don't know about my dad? Mm-hmm. What is something good you can tell me about my dad? And so I had a lady, she met with her mom just to ask her those questions.
Oh, that's great.
Tell me all the good things about Dad. Mm-hmm. Only good, no bad. And so tell me things I don't know. And so you can do that. But definitely we want you to have, it's supposed to be beautiful weather.
Yeah, it is.
And so we just encourage you to have a great day. Plan it out. We're always into planning, and we let you know things ahead of time to get ready for, so that you can keep getting better in all your relationships on all holidays, because those can be hard, right?
And this is going to be a good one for everybody, I think. So we've talked about it. We've given you a heads up on some neat things to do and ways to approach it. So we just hope you have a great day with your dad.
If you want to know gifts, next week we're going to talk about gifts. Yes, it's Saturday, the day before, but we're going to talk about great gifts for Dad. You still have time. We'll see you then, and keep getting better. Come right back here.
Bye, everybody.